Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the CranKy Ducklings review. Star Wars: The Bad Batch Season 2, Episode 2. I'm of course your VIP, and with me I'm joined by the one, the only, the Koopa. Hello, Koopa.
Hello. Yes, hello. We are back to the animated stuff.
Yes, we are back, of course. We wrapped up with Ahsoka quite some time ago. Now we're delving into The Bad Batch. I did say this at the end of the last episode, but we probably should have, because this is a two-parter, we probably should have watched both episodes and done like a batch review of episode 1 and episode 2. We most likely will be doing that moving forward, not especially because the episodes are shorter for an animated show like this. Like they're on like 20 minutes, so they're a little bit shorter. Despite that though, there's still, I would say there's still a bit to discuss regarding what occurred here. So yeah, go through episode 2. What are your thoughts, Koopa? How you feeling compared to Ahsoka?
Oh, that's a huge difference. Like things are actually make sense, and like people talk to each other, and they have like arcs and stuff, and they like
it's crazy.
And they have competence.
This character growth.
Do things.
Yeah.
But like they have skills that they actually use, and like and like they actually they're important, and they have opportunities to use them, and you can say, oh yeah, this person can do that. And like nobody feels useless.
That's crazy. It's crazy. It's like it's a well-written show. It's crazy. It's been a while since we've experienced one, so it's it's a breath of fresh air. It's been a while.
Also, I don't know if I don't want to call it a complaint. But there's one thing that is like slightly off to me, specifically in this episode, because I didn't get the same impression as the episode suggests. So I guess we'll talk about that.
Yeah. So this is episode 2 of The Bad Batch Season 2, called Ruins of War. The first episode was kind of reintroduction to the characters. They were sent on a mission to go to Count Dooku's planet, where he did reside at one point, to try to receive some of his spoils of war, or some part of his war chest, if you will. So they were sent there. At the time, the Empire, the ex-clone trooper army, was also there collecting and recovering belongings and again, assets that did belong to Count Dooku. They also went there to help like fund not just themselves, but also to fund like those close to them as well, to try to I guess the insinuation is to be able to leave and to be able to like try to avoid and be well funded, avoiding the Empire. But that was kind of like the initial.
Basically what Sid, the person who got them the basically what Sid said was, if you get like enough out of this, you can basically disappear. Like that was the allure.
Yeah, as they are on the run. And in the first episode, they were able to encounter, like, collect said assets. Then of course there was a confrontation. They were split up, and then this is the continuation of that here, where the party is kind of split into two. And yeah, it was an interesting splitting of the party as well. We do have Echo, we have Tech, and we have Omega together, where they're kind of split off. Meanwhile, we have Wrecker, and we have Hunter. Am I recalling that correctly?
No. Yes.
Yeah, Hunter and Wrecker. They kind of peel off together as well. And once again, this kind of like continues like the idea that, I mean, I say continues. It kind of expands a little bit on what we discussed in episode 1, where you have like a more competent army that's hunting them down, and that's their adversary. At the same time, like, they don't want to hurt them, but that, I would say, that kind of changes here. They try to emphasize that as well. I don't know if you noticed when there was a bit of a shift when Wrecker, specifically, when he was able to like to disassemble like the Separatist tank and use it as a weapon, they like intentionally showed like not just like the dead bodies of the troopers, but they intentionally showed like them looking after them. And if you noticed, where like the commander had like,
they had a little scene where the commander like retrieves that guy.
Yeah. Like, and it wasn't like very in your face in the sense that they're like, oh, they're killing our guys and stuff like that. No, like, they just showed it, but like the impression was meant to be there. So in your mind, like, it's meant to like mean something. Like, it's meant to be, it's meant to be like a bit of a shift of things and how it's affecting them as well. So I think that was like very deliberately shown as that started to change throughout the episode, because that wasn't the first time.
Because as you emphasized when we were talking about it last time, they very clearly show that whenever they are fighting clones, they make sure that they stun them and not kill them.
Mhm.
Like they're very intentional about that.
Yeah. And then Rocker was the first to start killing, and then the next one was Tech. I don't know if you remember, but Tech, when we're jumping forward a little bit, but there's a scene where he takes over basically
like a minigun,
like a minigun, and then he pauses for a moment before firing on the clone troopers. Like they intentionally showed that there was like some hesitation first before doing anything. And once again, what I appreciate is that like he didn't like vocalize or verbalize anything. Like it was just like a small like couple of second moment where he like hesitated first and then he started like firing upon them, which is like it's like a nice little like nod to that idea, to them initially like not wanting to hurt like their supposed like family or like brothers and stuff.
Yeah, like the fact that like they kind of end up in a position where it's like kill or be killed kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like they didn't want it in the first place.
Yeah, and it was like to me at least, it felt like a subtle shift in the episode, but it was there, and they made sure to point it out to you as well. Like that was nice.
Yeah, I agree. Like I've noticed it like even more than with Wrecker. I noticed it with Tech because specifically they had the scene with the minigun, and like he shoots first he shoots down a gunship. He does it very precisely as well.
Yeah.
And then like more like reinforcements come. It's like, well, I guess that's where we're at.
Yeah. It was quite nice. For Wrecker, it was less that he was one noticing, but it was more the aftermath, which is what they emphasized for the Wrecker stuff. But
that's it. On that note, I want to say that I think I actually like that for this episode specifically, they actually separated Omega with Tech and Echo because both of them have very different personality. To say Hunter, like to put it in perspective, like both Hunter and Wrecker are very like protective of Omega, where the other two are more like, they take care of her, but they're not as sentimental or emotional. I don't know what to call it. Like they have different personality.
Well, I think you mentioned it earlier, jokingly, talking about like, there's actual like character growth and character arcs here. But like, I feel like this was actually a really important episode a little mini arc, just because I would say that Echo, because he's the newest member of the party, I would say that there's less of an attachment between Echo and Omega than the others, because they were together a lot longer. And not just that, but also Echo, I mean, like he's part robot as well. There's a bit of a detachment there, at least I feel like they're trying to emphasize as well. But throughout the course of this episode, I don't know if you noticed, but like there were a couple of scenes where he was actively like protecting Omega. Specifically when they were falling in the sky, like he was like, as they were falling, like they animated him like covering her and like protecting her and stuff like that. And obviously like he's like caring for her and emphasizing that like things don't like the end goal here of the mission isn't as important as their lives. Obviously that's the whole point of the episode itself, the whole arc between the two characters. But I think it's important that they have this little moment between them, just because there is a bit of a more disconnect between them compared to Omega and everyone else.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, yeah, kind of. Like I feel like they kind of been also like working on her with Tech too, though, because the thing with Tech is like is just generally in a person, he's just like, I don't know what to call it. It's not honest to a fault. Like it's a different thing, but like if he thinks something wrong about you, he will tell it to your face, kind of person.
Yeah.
Like he has no filter or anything, which also makes him a bit more rough to interact with.
Yeah. But like he was always there. Like he was always a part of the group. Like he was always there with Omega. From the beginning of the first episode, like they showed that he was like looking after her or like mentoring her and they were spending time together. So I would say that this, of course, was more like an Echo focused like story arc between him and Omega. Which I feel like was really important to establish coming into the fresh season, because he's the newest member of the party, right? So I did appreciate that. The other thing that I also appreciated that was also very subtle, I don't know if you noticed, we spoke a little about how clone troopers are being given a little bit more respect as an adversary, and it was a little bit subtle, but I appreciate it just because in another show they wouldn't do it. But when Wrecker was dismantling the tank and when he was tearing it apart, they intentionally showed that that instead of the troopers not being able to shoot them, they fired the smoke bomb. So there was a reason why they couldn't be hit, whereas I feel like usually you wouldn't have that. Usually they'd just be shots missing. Yeah,
they weren't just sitting under fire and just doing something else.
Yeah. They intentionally, the writers of this episode intentionally felt the need to give a reason as to why they wouldn't be hit, which I thought was very nice. Once again, I appreciated that that they felt the need to do so instead of just having them work on whatever it is they want while shots are missing them
while being shot.
Yeah. So that was another nice little moment that once again emphasizes the difference of what it is that they're up against. Which the entire episode is them running as well, right? They're not fighting head on for multiple reasons, of course. They're outnumbered, but also they don't want to hurt them, they don't want to kill them if they don't need to, right?
But also, since we're speaking about the tanks, I'd like to point out that I also again, emphasizing that everybody has a different skill set. Wrecker puts together a tank of his own, just on the spot.
No, yeah.
He's generally considered not very smart. He's good at doing things, but he doesn't have a lot of brain cells hanging around there. But when he had to put together a tank, he could just do it.
Yeah. That's something that I'd also noticed as well, which I did really appreciate, is that this episode, this two-parter was mainly, I would say, an arc for Echo and Omega. True, but at the same time, they did give Wrecker his own moment here, where they were looking for a way to cause a distraction, a way to create an opening to bust through the line of the line of troopers. And it was Wrecker who had the idea of getting the tank, and it was Hunter who emphasized this has been destroyed or it's been damaged, this isn't gonna work, and he's no, I got this, and it was a nice little scene which lets you know as the audience he's a demolicious, he knows what he's doing, right? He's not just dumb and just shoots things. No, there's a little bit more of a technical aspect to him as well. Maybe he can't really vocalize that too well, and maybe he's he doesn't sound like the smartest person, but he knows what he's doing. He has his own speciality, right? And they gave him his scene.
I was gonna say that it's kind of there are those people that they may not be good at many things, but they're very good at this one thing. And I think that's kind of his figure. He's just, that's just his topic and he's interested in that, and to prove that it's not just he just randomly has this skill now. In season 1 there is actually a scene where I think it was actually when they were officially accepting Omega to the crew. I don't remember, but there is a scene where they have some downtime and Wrecker is teaching Omega how to disarm bombs actually, and she has to work on a training kit. So he intentionally even gives her a training kit just so she learns how to disarm a bomb.
Yeah, and it's fun that they give him his scene and they give some value to the character in this episode as well for being able to do that. In general, I would say actually that Hunter takes a back seat in this episode, right? He doesn't do much, which isn't a bad thing, because honestly he's typically the main focal point of the team, of the crew. So it was very nice giving these other characters their own time to shine, which is also why it's important that they split the party up as well, just to give more time for Tech and more time for Echo and more time for Wrecker as well. That's good.
They each had their role. I mean, Hunter was still technically leading the team because he still was giving commands and stuff. So but
it was more in the background, right? It wasn't necessarily the main focus.
It wasn't the main focus.
Yeah, for sure. So overall it was a nice episode, which, as I mentioned, was mainly character focused. Obviously had the backdrop of them, going to Dooku's planet and trying to retrieve some of his wares or some of his assets. They failed to do so. We should emphasize that as well, that they failed to do so. Mega tried to, she even put herself at jeopardy to do so because she felt responsible for kind of the position they're all in, which is fine. Obviously you can
this is where I want to ask the question though. Were you under the impression before this episode,
No,
were you under the
no,
impression that Omega is blaming herself
no,
for whatever happened?
no, no,
Exactly.
no,
That was the
yeah,
one part that bothered me because
yeah.
they never like showed that being the case.
Mhm,
And even then, when they have like the argument between Hunter and Echo, like they say that like, oh yeah, we risk everything to Omega, and Echo says we did this because it was the right thing to do, but there are like these other things. So like he still agrees that that was the correct choice. So I
mhm.
don't know at what point it became like, oh, like it's all her fault because they are now where they
I
are.
agree. Like this should have been set up in the previous episode where she. I think it would have been really good character motivation as well for her to feel responsible and to feel the need to make up for it, to feel the need to do more and achieve more because she feels responsible for the crew. Obviously, that isn't the case. In the sense that, like, I mean, even they emphasize it here as well, where they wouldn't have wanted to have joined the Empire anyway. So that they would be in this position regardless, ideally. But I do agree that there should have been more set up in the previous episode. It feels like that motivation kind of came out of nowhere here, for sure.
Yeah, or drop the like guilt thing and just make it more like that she wants to be a valuable part of the team or something like more in that direction where it doesn't come from guilt but just like trying to like do her part or just trying to improve their lives just because
Mm-hmm.
she likes them
Yeah.
and not because she's like guilted into it kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can approach it however you wish, but I do agree that should have been set up in the previous episode to have a little bit more of a well-rounded story arc for her instead of here, as you mentioned. Like it feels like it kind of comes out of nowhere here, or like you as a viewer, you don't get the impression that that was something that was on her mind or that was driving her or anything like that. You don't get that impression till the very end. So I do agree that was a failing of the episode, and it would have led to a stronger moment at the end as well, which that would have been better.
Mhm.
But
Also, on unrelated note to Omega, I like that what they once again did something that fortunately happens quite often in these like side shows
Mhm.
is where they meet the local and like that you specifically have a scene where Tech is like, oh, this is like separatist technology. It's like not separatist. We had a different name before the war happened.
Mhm.
Like they were actual people that were just involved in the war. It's not just like the good versus evil kind of thing.
Yeah, I wonder if that's a reference to something, or I wonder if that's going to come back later on in the season, because they made it sound like a big deal, and I wonder if it is the idea that that Tech helped him fix their like memory core unit, that they're like
Yeah.
little mini archive of their history, like that's I feel like they made it sound like a big deal, but we just kind of moved on and moved past it, and we just the story just went on anyway, and we just moved on. But it feels weird that they emphasize it as much as they did and do nothing with it later. So I'm curious again, like I don't know enough of like future lore or other things, like if this is meant to be a reference to something like in a later show, or if this is going to come back later in this season, referencing like these characters and they come back at some point. But it feels weird that they emphasize it as much as they did, or like if there was like
True.
as much
They put a
importance
lot of
there.
like it did feel like an important
Yeah,
breakthrough kind of thing.
yeah. So it's weird that
But
that happened and they moved on. It's like, wait, what?
that was weird. I thought they could like bring it up at the end, but they just didn't.
Yeah.
But again, what I was talking more about just the fact they even brought up the guy because like kind of similar how we talked about how the clones, how the Imperial clone forces, there are still clone forces, and like they are on the side of the Empire, but it wasn't like their choice to be on the side of the Empire. They are just serving, whoever it is. And then you have like on this side, we're like, yes, we were on this part of the world, but like before the war happened, they were just people who were involved in the conflict.
Mhm.
And I like that they kind of show that it's not like the evil robots are attacking, but there's also like more to the sides of every conflict.
Yeah, for sure. And And that kind of leads us in towards the end of the episode. Like we already discussed that. That's when it kind of leads in and focuses in a little bit more on the fact that the team started killing troopers, and they started emphasizing, like visually showing that was happening. There was a shift happening there, and that might be a sign of things to come later on down the line as well. There is something at the very then the story ends, and we have that scene, of course, with the clone commander and the Imperial officer. Which I really, really liked, but at the same time I didn't. Like so if you remember, I said this at the very beginning of episode 1, or in our review. Do you remember, I was talking about the shift between the Empire having clone troopers as their army and then shifting into stormtroopers. And I was talking to you about how, at least in the legends or in the original canon, one of the main reasons was costs, right? Obviously, because there were no clones coming in, and it was cheaper, and to start conscripting and to just bring in these like untrained or less trained like soldiers, and just to have them en masse, and then they start like filtering in, and then the clones are slowly phased out. And I if you remember, I wasn't sure if they were going to like touch on the idea of the Imperial Army changing in this show, because it feels like it's too soon, right? Like it feels like the Empire just took over. Like they just like
literally yesterday.
Yeah, there was like a time skip, obviously, between season 1 and season 2. There is a time skip, but you don't get the like it's maybe a couple of months. Like you don't really get the impression it's like a big time skip, obviously because Omega's still young. So I didn't think they would touch on it, but it looks like they are. That's the impression that I'm getting here, is that they're showing another reason as to maybe why the Empire would want to eventually get rid of the clone troopers, because they're like loyal to a fault, or they're like proper to a fault.
They're all by the rules and by the what is it called? By the procedure.
Yeah, by the book.
They're all about the procedure.
Yeah, exactly. And because of how the Empire handles things, and because of how they're structured, where they're incentivized by like greed and by like making themselves look better than they are, or of course I think they mentioned that their punishments are more stricter and more harsh, to the point where you would want to like lie about things, because otherwise you might just die, right? Because of that ruling system, like it doesn't mesh too well with how the clone troopers are set up, but because of their own like personal incentives or personal agenda of these like officers and of these higher ups. So I like what they're doing here a lot, actually, but at the same time it does feel like it's too soon. Right, it's like, are things really going to start going downhill this quickly? Like it's been like a couple of months, like what's going on? Like that's the one thing that bothers me, is like it feels like this is happening too quickly.
The thing is, I don't know if it's too quick, because so far it's this guy specifically. Because if you remember, this specific officer also appears in season 1, and the moment he's introduced to the clones, like as in general, he's like, no, yeah, we don't need them, and like he's like immediately not interested in the clones. So it would make sense that he would be one to get rid of them. At least that's what I remember. I think he was like opposed from the start.
Yeah, exactly. Like he is, but like even if that's the case, like I feel like because they showed that scene, I get the impression that this is going to be something that's going to be permeating throughout the entire season, and might even conclude by the end of the season. Which, if it does, that feels like it's too soon. Like, because then what are we going to get rid of all the clone troopers by the end of like a year of the Empire taking over? Like what? Like what's
like how fast are you getting the conscripts?
Exactly. Like it feels like things are moving too quickly. Where I understand that this officer, he has his own agenda and he has his distrust, or he has his own biases against the clone troopers. Sure, and he can even be the one to spearhead the idea of getting rid of them. But I feel like that takes time, like I feel like it takes time to
but
for that to occur.
What I mean more is that like he like this is like a singular incident, and I don't know how big of a domino effect it will have on the rest of the forces.
We'll see when it comes to the whole season, right? But like I feel like if they're going to do this at the very beginning of the season, it's because like this storyline is going to progress throughout the course of the season, right? So. Like that's my concern, is that like I feel like we're moving too quickly here. But like that's how I feel on the one hand. On the other hand, I do like it. Like I like it because this reminds me of Ahsoka. This reminds me of.
You like it because it reminds you of Ahsoka?
No, it reminds you of it, like comparing things, right? Where in Ahsoka you had that episode where they show up on the demolition plans. I said, on the planets that is like constructing engines and constructing like hyperspace, like ship parts. Remember, if you recall, how they go there and how, if you remember, I wanted, and they didn't do this because it's a poorly written show, but I really liked the idea of people doing their jobs and not knowing that they're doing things for the wrong reason, and not knowing that like there's someone else behind things. They're just, hey, we just got a work order to like to make like these parts and then send them to this place, so we just do it, right? We just do it. We're just doing our job, right?
Just clock in, clock out, and go back to their homes.
Yeah, so I liked the idea of that happening, and then they screwed it all up, and they were like, oh, actually, everyone who's here, all the people that are actually like working their jobs and that are making decisions, like they're all Empire, right? There was that scene where they literally say like glory to the Empire, and they try to like shoot like Ahsoka or Sabine.
To be fair, those were the people in the control room, but they didn't look very highly ranked.
Yeah, exactly. Like, but same with like the supervisor. Like he was also arrested.
Yes.
Yeah, and remember, I wanted literally all of them to just be doing their job. That's what I wanted. So just everyone's just doing their job, and in the end, they made it so that like the supervisors and the people that are like leading and the team leaders and stuff essentially are Empire, and they kind of mess that up. Here it's similar, where I like the idea that the clone troopers are just doing their job. Like they're not necessarily, they don't have any kind of like malicious intent. They're just doing what they're told. They're just doing their job. They're trying to do the best they can, and then you have like these Imperial officers that end up doing stuff like this, right? Like
and I liked again, we were going back to the competency thing and stuff. Like I like that they emphasized that like the clones are not okay with that, because again, we have to keep in mind that like because of the whole Order 66 thing, basically they just think that the Empire is like the continuation of the Republic. So they were serving the Republic, now they're serving the Empire, and they're doing the same job, just it's called differently,
Yeah.
So like I like that they emphasize that it's not like, oh, they suddenly became evil. No, they're just doing their job as they were before.
Exactly. So like I say, this reminds me of Ahsoka. It reminds me of what Ahsoka should have done, and it's not what they did. It's like like this is like, because again, like if they really wanted to like go downhill with it, they could have made like the officers of the clone troopers like actually evil or malicious, have malicious intent and all this stuff, and actually work with the Imperials, or they could have written it how they wanted. But I appreciate that they stuck with the idea that these clone troopers, like again, like their affiliation isn't necessarily like good or bad or whatever. They're like, in a sense, kind of like tools being used, but they also have their own like agency as well, where, as you said, like they're like he was pushing against the officer. He was like, no, I'm not gonna lie, like in my report, like that's not what I do, like this like no. And so that opens up, and initially I didn't think it was gonna die, because I was like, oh, like the idea of like this I always say this, you've heard me say this before, but the idea of this internal conflict, right, between like the clones and the Empire is interesting to me. Like I like that. Then they kill him. It's like, oh, but like I feel like they've still opened the door for that kind of potential. And I'm curious how they explore in the rest of the show the potential idea of clones breaking off, right? Of them realizing things aren't quite right here, or who they're working for aren't doing things correctly, or the way that things should be, and that they break off, or that of course like the main Bad Batch team find a way to like to help them, right? And like
because
I feel
the
like
question is, how much can they, like, considering the whole Order 66 thing, like how far can they go?
okay, they're gonna explore that. I would imagine, right?
Yeah. Because the thing is that like the Bad Batch and Rex and like people like that, like they have their chips removed, so like they see the whole picture, but for them like nothing has changed. Like for them, they are serving the same country they were before, and then like the management changed, but like it's the same institution in their eyes. So how do they find out what is going on, is my point, if they they have like certain like mental blocks essentially.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think what we're seeing here is that obviously there are limitations, right? Like, just they're not under like full mind control, where like an officer's
mind control.
where the officer's telling them what to do and they do it regardless of things. Like, clearly there's some core values they still stick to regardless of what the superiors tell them, right? So there's something there. There's some tension there, which I like. I like that there's some tension there, and I'm excited to see that explored. Like, I want to see more of this. I want to see where this story goes and how they explore this and what they do with this. So yeah. So in that sense, like, I like what they're doing. On the flip side, I still do think that it's too soon. Like, it feels weird that we're potentially wrapping this up too soon. Obviously, we'll see. Like, it's hard to like confirm, but like, I get the impression that this is something that's going to continue throughout the course of the season, and we just started. So I guess we'll see, right? We'll see if we wrap up the clone troopers by the end of the season or not. Like, we'll see.
I will see indeed.
But it's like it's got its hooks in me. Like, I'm interested. Like, because I want to see what happens with the clone troopers. I want to see like how that all unfolds. Like, obviously we know where things go in the end. Kind of. I say we know
kind of,
because again, all that I know is what happened in the original canon, and now that we have the new canon, that they can change things if they want. Like, they can.
Yeah, they
have some freedom. Obviously, we know how things end, but.
Yeah, I would say at this point in current canon, what we know is that at some point, stormtroopers are gone, and that's pretty much all we know.
Clone troopers are gone, but yeah.
Clone troopers. Yeah. The switch happens at some point, but we don't know what happened to all
like
the
if they really wanted to, they could make it that all the clone troopers they get their chips removed and they leave. And there's like a war or something, and they go into hiding. Like, if they really wanted to, they would be. Like, they're not going to, but I'm just saying that they have some freedom with how they want to tell their story.
But speaking of how far can they investigate? What would the clones think about the fact that Kamino is destroyed? Like, obviously they may just never know, but like it was like an actual operation that was done there, so it's probably somewhere in the files.
I mean, they could just be like false files, right? Like, they could.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, how far can they go with this?
Yeah. We'll see. We shall see. But yeah, I'm curious. I hope that this is where the direction that the season takes. As in, I hope that we spoke about in episode 1. I hope that the season goes in the direction of the Bad Batch exploring ideas or exploring the concept of trying to free the other clones, right? Like, I feel like we still don't really have a main plot thread that's going to be taking us through the season. I feel like it's still very open with where the story goes. But I hope that that's something that they explore, just because, at least to me, that's interesting. So yeah, because I want to see.
Yeah. That sounds interesting.
Do you have anything else to speak on when it comes to the episode itself?
I mean,
I think we touched everything pretty much, but
pretty much. One thing that was kind of impressive to me is that they actually got Tech to have a fighting scene.
Yeah.
Which is also like, emphasizing that, like, he's the nerd guy basically, but like he's also still a soldier. That, like, while they have like their specializations, like that doesn't mean they are useless in other things.
Yeah. I appreciated this is a little thing. It had to do with the animation. I appreciated something that we don't often see, and that was it's a very small like visual detail, but scorch marks. I don't know if you noticed, but specifically they were showing when the ships were being shot at, specifically when Hunter and Wrecker got on their ship and they left, like, and even when they were shooting other ships as well, like there were like scorch marks landing on their ship and on opposing ships as well. And I feel like that's almost never seen, and that's often never done. It was like a nice little detail that I appreciated. And it just stood out to me because I feel like typically like shields are involved or something like that, and you don't often see like ships being damaged in that way.
You know how Ahsoka's ship was chased and it was constantly being shot at, and there was no visible damage. Even like this one.
Yeah. But here, like all the ships were being damaged, which was really interesting to me, and so that stood out to me initially. And then they showed like the gunner scene where the tree was being shot at, and I feel like the animators, they just wanted to show more scorch marks, and they showed like the tree like being splintered and being scorched up. It's like a nice little animation detail, but it's something that is often skipped. Like if you watch Clone Wars or Rebels or some of the other animated shows, like this is something that
also because like I feel like
isn't
the I mean, obviously it may be like a technology thing, but like I feel like shows like you said, like Clone Wars or like even Rebels are more clean. Like in general, like things don't really get dirty. Like generally the model just looks a certain way and they don't really add more to it unless there's something very specific.
Yeah, it's just a nice little detail that stood out to me just because it's not in the other media, and I was like, that's nice. Like it just it just stood out. I was like, cool. I noticed animators, and I appreciate it. It's nice.
Yeah, somebody worked the entire week on that.
Someone made a bunch of scorch mark effects, and they really wanted people to notice. And I noticed.
Yeah.
I noticed.
And they showed it to their friend. Their friend didn't know what this is. And they're like, yeah.
Sure. But yeah. So overall, I enjoyed the two-parter here. As we mentioned, like I do think that motivation should have been set up a little bit better for Omega in the previous episode, and potentially things are moving too quickly when it comes to the Empire and Clone Troopers, but it's too early to really confirm that just because it's the beginning of the season. But yeah, overall, I'm hopeful, interested, excited.
Oh, also that is actually an interesting thing as well, now that I think about it, because they emphasize in this episode that Omega doesn't understand toys.
Yeah, that was a nice little thing where I thought they were going to go into it a little bit more, but the idea that she's a child, but she didn't really have a childhood, right? Like
yeah, because she was already like treated like an adult from the start, essentially.
Yeah. So I thought they were going to explore that a little bit more, but I appreciate that they touch on it, and I assumed that they were going to go further with it, and maybe they will later on in the show. But like the idea that she doesn't know what a toy is, or she doesn't know how to have fun, or like, you know, like she
knows how to have fun, but the idea of fun is like being almost killed by crabs. So the
idea that she's a child, but she has to grow up in this kind of environment is an interesting topic to address and to explore. I don't know if they will too much. They touch on it here.
They kind of touched on it in the season 1 as well, though, where there is that one episode where they meet like Twilight kids, and they're like playing ball, and they're like throwing ball to her, and she doesn't know what she's supposed to do with it.
Yeah.
And then she's like, the ball like misses her, and she's like, oh, I was supposed to catch it. It's like she just completely doesn't understand the idea of play in the first place.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that like that with all that being said, she does have Wrecker's plushie. So that what it implies she maybe understands the concept of toy? Question mark.
We'll see. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of Terminator. It reminds me of it reminds me of John Connor. I don't know if you remember, because we watched Terminator 2 together. But there was a scene where he was talking about growing up, and he was talking about how when he was a kid he didn't know any better, but his mother, Sarah Connor, when he was a child, was like teaching him like how to like clean guns and like load weapons and like all this stuff. And then when she eventually got incarcerated and put into a mental institution because of what she believed, and then when he got put into the foster care system, like all these other kids in the neighborhood, they like wanted to like play like Nintendo and like do other things, and like he didn't fit in. He was like what? Like he didn't fit in, but he also felt like it was like beneath him a little bit as well. Like he just couldn't connect because of how he was raised. And it reminds me a little bit here as well, where she's literally raised by soldiers, essentially, right? She's raised like in a more military fashion. She's raised as a
soldier, importantly, because it's not just by, so like she's literally raised as a soldier.
Yeah. So I think that I think there's definitely something to explore there. I don't know how far they'll go into that sort of thing, but it's another like interesting aspect of the character that they touch on here, which I appreciate. It's like they're reminding you of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
You're saying there's depth to the characters? In a Star Wars show? That's crazy. It's crazy.
Impossible.
Crazy.
You mean the characters like also learn things over the years and like, change and maybe like have some experiences that make them think one way or another? That's crazy.
It's crazy. But yeah, overall, definitely am interested in where the season leads us here. I mentioned this earlier. I'll mention it again. I do think. I mean, I guess we'll judge it on a case by case basis. I don't know how you feel about it, Kuro. Whether we should make a review like this after each episode, or if we get the sense that it's like a little mini arc or like a 2-part or something, if we should watch multiple episodes.
I think really that's how the easiest way to do it is that like if an episode basically ends like not on a conclusion, that we just like congregate all of them, like it's just to have the complete story that we're thinking about. Because like here in episode 1 we had very very clear cliffhanger. It's not always that clear, but like usually like you can tell that this is like part of a bigger story.
Yeah, I think we'll do our best to try to judge when there's like a continuation, and we'll try to do like maybe batches of episodes at once, just because there's a lot of episodes, and also because like they're quite short. So I think there is value in maybe doing that. But we'll see. We'll try to do our best to judge all that stuff.
Yep.
Otherwise, with that, do you have anything else to add about the episode itself? Is there anything that you want the season to explore that maybe I didn't bring up? And if there's anything that you want?
No, not really, because it kind of brought up like the whole like clone situation. I
think you already said last episode how you wanted to see more Rex, right?
Yeah, I want to say what Rex is up to. I want them to solve the mystery of how Rex ended up retired shooting troopers. They have to figure it out. Like they wrote themselves into that corner. They have to figure it out now.
Do you think we're going to see Hera again? Because they showed Hera in season 1.
I want to say no, but you never know. That's the thing. Like I could totally see them like giving us a like entire backstory of how the crew of the Ghost became a thing through Bad Batch and like other shows. But at the same time, I can see them like not mentioning them ever again.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to say.
I hope that they don't. As in, I do think that it would be really interesting to see like Hera and Kanan and Chopper and Zeb before Ezra joins them. Like, I think that's really cool. But at the same time, I think it's too soon, right? Like,
yeah, but what I mean specifically, maybe not that far. Like, I'm not thinking that far, but more the fact that we know that, for example, Hera and Kanan knew each other for a long time, and something that I'm like, I was about to say afraid of, because I think it's better left ambiguous, so we can just kind of just speculate on how that whole like crew became a thing. But I'm very afraid that what they may do is that at some point that they find Caleb, and like they're gonna have a whole episode about how the two of them met together, and then they just like go on their own adventures, kind of thing.
Yeah. I think as you said, I think it's best left unsaid when it comes to that. I think what I would be okay with, what they could do, is that they could show Zeb even before he joins the crew of the Ghost.
The thing is, Zeb is busy. Because before Zeb became part of the Ghost crew, like he was a guard. He was a royal guard, remember? So like he had an actual job.
Well, as in they might encounter the other Lasat.
The Lasat planet.
Yeah.
Like they would have to go specifically to the planet. Yeah.
I could see that happening. I could see them like exploring that a little bit, just like as a teaser, like an Easter egg, or just to show that. But we'll see. We'll see if they end up.
I mean, we do know that Lasat planet was destroyed by the Empire, and there was like a whole operation there, and
Yeah.
that happened like several years before Rebels.
Yeah.
We don't know how many exactly, but like within, you know,
Well,
the last decade.
yeah, as in right now, I would say that it's still there. In the timeline, like the planet would still be there. The Empire hasn't destroyed it yet because
Yeah,
the
that's what
Empire
I mean.
just
Like
took
it's still
over.
before the attack.
Yeah, so if they wanted to, they could explore that if they wanted to. So I'll see. We'll see.
But what I meant more is that like they could even specifically touch on the attack of the on the planet, but I think it's still too early for that because we know when it happened more or less because of Kalos, because we know more or less how old he is, and that was
Mhm.
like I think that was the mission where like he got promoted, no, or something
No,
like
yeah,
that.
it's too soon. Like as I said, like I wouldn't want to show the downfall of the subplanet. That wouldn't make any sense given the timeline. But to just show
Yeah,
the characters themselves, like that would fit here.
yeah, it's possible.
Yeah. So we'll
And
see.
that also be kind of in theme because you know, as I said, we saw Caleb, we saw Hera, so we could just like, you know, just get random cameos from all the characters,
Mhm.
just, you know, just appearing in an episode.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if they end up doing any kind of big cameos or anything like that. How far they decide to take things. Yeah, I think it's a little bit too early to fully tell, but regardless, looking forward to seeing more of this. And yeah, with that, those are our thoughts. Those are our thoughts here on the Bad Batch episode 2. We didn't really go fully into the episode breakdown itself, as in when it comes to the story being told. But of course, in the end, like we kind of alluded to what they did. They end up leaving the war chest of Count Dooku behind. In the end, they emphasized that Omega apparently felt guilty or felt responsible for certain things regarding like the current state that the team was in. So she wanted to so she felt the motivation to try to take the spoils of war even more, even putting herself in danger. In the end, Echo, of course, reached out and explained to her that like, hey, like despite the conversation that they had previously, like there are things that are more important, like regardless of what's going on, and showing that he cares for her. Obviously, that's also why I mentioned earlier that like they specifically were showing scenes where like he was actually like protecting her and looking after her and stuff, which I appreciated for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Also, I was gonna say, I don't think because they specifically named the trooper. The trooper's name is Wilco. Have we ever encountered him
I
before,
don't think
or is
so.
that just
I think
just name trooper?
that's new, from my understanding.
Okay.
I mean, maybe he's from Clone Wars. Maybe I can't say with any certainty. I have to look it up. But otherwise, thanks for watching, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time for episode or for the next section of the Bad Batch, whether it's just purely episode 3 or whether there's another two-parter. We'll see you for the next episode.
See you then.
Ciao.
Bye.